Hi, everybody. This is Bernie and Becky Baudouin. We have been married for 25 years and we have been attending the marriage community for 20 years. We have been going to a marriage workshop at the beginning as participants to help us with our marriage, which was going through a rocky place. And we were helped so much that we decided to stay and become table leaders. And since then, we have been table leaders and we have really been enjoying it and really has helped us out. Becky right now has a message for you, so I leave you in good hands.
And Bernie and I have 3 daughters. 2 of them are in college, and then our youngest is in high school. So we have been in quarantine, like all of you, for this is our 6th week actually. Our college daughters came home in the middle of March. And this has just been a real mixed bag. A lot of disappointments with the college girls ending their semesters early, and our high schooler who worked really hard to make it on the softball team and then of course found out that everything was canceled. And it's been a huge adjustment working from home and the girls doing online learning, all of us being together. There's been some unexpected gifts of the time together that we've had, family dinners, walks together as a family. We're watching our 6th season of Survivor right now. Bernie and I never watched that show before, and our girls are really into it. So there have been a lot of fun things. We had something really difficult with our family. My sister was sick with COVID-19 for a good month, and that was really scary for us. But thankfully she's doing better. There's also just been tension and strain in our relationships from so much time of being together, and arguments that sort of pop up, and days that most of us are just on edge. And a big part of that is the uncertainty of how long this is going to go on and what is it going to look like as we head into the summer and even fall. As we have been going to great lengths to be mindful and intentional, to stay healthy and not spread germs. John Gottman, in his book The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, a lot of us worked through this book a couple years ago in one of the workshops, and he says that there are 4 behaviors when we are communicating with our spouse or in our other relationships. If you have kids that are a little bit older, you can definitely share this with them because they're going to need it also. But there's 4 behaviors that we need to be just as mindful and intentional to avoid, because they're things that make our relationship sick and they tear down and destroy our relationships. So the first thing that John Gottman talks about is criticism, and he makes a distinction between criticizing and voicing a complaint. And I think it's really important because we have to have a way to bring our complaints up and be able to talk about things. So he suggests using a gentle startup and using I statements. So a complaint would look like being able to use I statements and say, I felt frustrated, or I felt sad or upset when you did this specific behavior. It's about a specific thing that happened, a specific behavior. And what I would really like is this. That is different than a criticism, which is a generalization, oftentimes with a harsh startup. And oftentimes it's labeling, criticizing the person's character or their intentions. So something that I think would be an example for a lot of us would be if you're trying to have a conversation with your spouse and maybe they're on their phone. So if you voice a complaint, you'd be able to say, when I was trying to have that conversation with you, I felt frustrated that you were looking at your phone. And in the future, I would really like it if when we are talking to each other, if we can put our phones down and really pay attention to each other. That's a lot different than criticizing and just saying, I'm so frustrated. You're always on your phone. Every time I try to talk to you, it's like you don't even care. You don't even want to listen to what I have to say. So there, you can hear it's a lot harsher. You're overgeneralizing, using words like always and never. So it's really important, especially now when we are together all the time, to avoid criticism. The second thing he says we need to avoid is contempt. And he says this is the greatest predictor of divorce. I just look at this as mean behavior. When I am acting in contempt, I am really looking to hurt the other person. I know what I can say in the way that I can say it that's going to cause insult or hurt to them. And it's so damaging to our relationships. John Gottman says instead to build a culture of appreciation by affirming your spouse, remembering why it was we fell in love in the first place, and calling out those positive traits. This is one for me that I've had to work really hard on, and this includes things like rolling your eyes and raising your voice, calling each other names, swearing. Again, like I said, just really mean behavior. We have to avoid this. The third thing he talks about is defensiveness, and this is often in response to criticism, which makes sense, right? You feel criticized, so you defend yourself, but it's really not productive. So he says the best thing to do is to take responsibility and take ownership. And this is like, I feel like it is such a great way to de-escalate a conflict. If instead of getting defensive, going back to the example with the phone, if instead of getting defensive and turning on your spouse and saying, oh, you should talk, you are on your phone all the time, the kids are always saying that you're on your phone, instead of getting defensive, to just be able to take responsibility and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm stressed out with work, I was checking my email, but you're right, I really should put my phone away, and I'm going to do that the next time. I'm sorry, will you forgive me? It's a huge way to build into your relationship. And then the fourth thing he talks about is stonewalling, and this is often in response to contempt. And this is where we withdraw in unhealthy ways and shut down, and I have been guilty of this one too. We just get fed up and I just leave the room, leave the house, just shut down. I don't even want to try to talk about it anymore because I don't want to get hurt. And John Gottman recommends here that we learn to practice self-care, figure out what would be a way to take care of ourselves in the moment, step away, and then when we are able, this is the important thing, is to come back. Some of us can walk away and not come back and not revisit it. I actually have a friend who last fall told me my husband and I are just in a really, really bad place. I don't even know if we're going to survive this Christmas, and I don't even know what condition we're going to be in next year. So she talked to her husband and just said, I think that if we could find a way, this was 10 days before Christmas, if we could find a way to just make a promise to each other that we're going to stop fighting, it could be a Christmas present that we give to each other and to our kids, because this is taking a toll on our kids as well. So they made a promise to each other and a commitment that they would not fight till Christmas. And I asked her, so what did that look like? Did you just shove everything under the rug? Did you leave the house? Or did you avoid being together? She said, no, we had to still be together. We just got through those moments without doing these behaviors. They didn't even know about these Four Horsemen. But they avoided criticism and defensiveness and contempt and stonewalling. They made it to Christmas, and it was amazing. And then my friend said, well, why don't we keep going and see if we can make it to New Year's? So they did. They didn't fight until New Year's, and then they said, let's keep going to Valentine's Day. And she called me one day and said, we blew it, we messed up, we had a huge fight. But I just said, look at how far you have come and look how long you've gone without fighting. They completely changed the culture in their relationship by avoiding these four behaviors and learning to communicate in a more productive way. There's been a lot of joking and, kind of half joking, and some real concerns actually, but that there's going to be a baby boom in 9 months. Some people say there's going to be a surge in the divorce rate. I think we're going to see a surge with people who have addictions and are struggling with depression and anxiety. I think we're already seeing that. But our own Jan Hook, several weeks ago when all this started, he said something that just gave me so much hope. He said, I think it's possible that 9 months from now we could also see a surge in healthy marriages who are committed to, during this time, as things get stirred up in us in our relationships, as these challenges kind of bring out the best and the worst in us, if we are able to lean into it and do the work and make a commitment that we're going to grow through it, we could come out of this with stronger relationships. And I loved that, and I've been holding on to that. So I just want to close with a verse, Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 through 14. Again, this would be a great verse to share with your children. It's a one to put on the refrigerator and to be mindful of. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, Clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. I love verse 13. It just stands out to me, and I love it in the New Living Translation. It says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. I love that idea of making allowance for each other's faults. It's like, I'm just going to plan on you maybe saying something that's going to be hurtful, or just kind of planning on that everybody is going to at times mess up a little bit, and can we extend grace, and can we be ready for it? So thank you for listening, everybody.